Hey y'all, I'm Matt, and today we're going to be talking about running pre-written adventures or modules, which can be a great thing, especially if you're a new DM. If you're an experienced DM, give it a shot, because it can provide some fresh creative inspiration too. Think of it like being given a look into another DM's prep, so that you can pick and choose what you like, and you can incorporate that into your own DM style. Now, my primary experience in this is in running two old adventure paths, Rise of the Runelords and Curse of the Crimson Throne. Both of these have been immense fun so far, and they have their own perks and quirks that I won't go into in this video, though I will reference them a little bit. Spoiler free, of course. So as I go on, recognize that I'm working from a base of a fairly extensive module, as opposed to a one-shot. 1. Modules cover things that I wouldn't think to cover. When you're starting off, you have no idea what to put in a tavern, a dungeon, a town, or a city. You might have a nice starting off point, but you want things to feel alive. And modules tend to cover that pretty well. For example, a city might have a special event that people flock to from all over. Coming up with all those details on the fly can be very daunting. If you asked me what sorts of attractions you can expect from a festival, I can rifle off a few from my experience at amusement parks. But the fact that the module can have those listed already takes some pressure off of me, especially if I wasn't prepared for the question. Same goes for traversing through a building. If it's a type of building or structure that I'm not super well acquainted with, say the ins and outs of a factory, and having the details of what makes sense in that factory is a godsend. To have a door open and there not be a combatant while the tension builds, the fear of the unknown as they continue to explore and maybe see little bits of mess that the invaders of this place have left behind, and stealth checks amidst this journey so the players feel on edge, while their perception checks along the way may give the players some little glimmers of hope that they might at the very least be aware of something around the corner. Also, modules tend to cover little elements like machinery that's still operating and help me to describe them and how they affect how players perceive things, like a penalty to perception whilst maneuvering around a loud rumbling furnace, or hearing the sound of a whale in the distance. What's a whale doing on dry land? No, I mean like a pained moan, but discovering that nothing's there, and it was just the sound of the wind through a little crack in the window. Modules can help you handle NPCs as well, with tendencies and behaviors. For example, in the opening of Rise of the Runelords, it provides a 10 fun facts list about goblins that make it more interesting and fun to play those characters. They also provide elements like what an enemy might do when their morale is threatened. If an enemy is apt to fight to the death, defending their home or their honor, or if they'll drop their weapons and give up their commander when the odds become insurmountable. 2. Modules tend to surprise me along the way. I know what I tend to lean to when it comes to the things that I enjoy describing and running. Puns, puns, and more puns. So when I crack open a new adventure, it gives me the chance to be surprised, just as how my players will be surprised when I run it for them. And then to know that a specific NPC might be a spy against the players, or there may be an NPC who could be convinced to turn and work for the players. Those elements allow me to add a little bit of nuance to the roleplay of these NPCs, a little undercurrent to these characters that I might not have considered before. And sometimes it's just the way a place is laid out that'll surprise me. To have little clues sprinkled into a fortress that lets the players in on the mindset of who they're about to encounter. 3. Modules tend to provide me with excellent reference materials like maps or art. Many DMs who aren't big fans of modules will still give them props when it comes to the visuals. And these are elements that you might use even if you don't run the adventure itself. And when you're running a module, having the artwork can be particularly helpful in describing a scene. Grabbing a picture from the monster's manual is great, but being able to show a depiction of said monster in that specific setting doing what you're describing can be extra impactful. 4. I'm not in love with the material. Not to say that I don't love the material, but I'm not attached to it. So if an NPC has to die, I can kill them without remorse. My humble cereal factory. Or maybe the players will kill them, and I'm not gonna feel too bad about it. Or if a particular plot line or secret is going to be lost completely because the players decide to do something else, then I can just let it go because I'm not as invested in it. Not to say that DMs in general don't have to continuously throw away plans and NPCs and create new ones on the fly, but the module is a great way to start with providing you with cool things that aren't your own creation, so it hurts a little bit less when you're forced to destroy them. Also, when it comes to things that I create, I tend to be a little bit sensitive. So if something ends up not making sense, if a player sees a plot hole or something, it hurts. But if it's in a module, then it feels a little bit less like they're critiquing me and more like they're critiquing whoever wrote the module. It doesn't always happen, but it does feel a little bit like a buffer for me emotionally. 5. It gives me the chance to improv like I'm in an improv show. Now, being pro module might feel a little contradictory to me being an advocate for improvisation. As far as I'm concerned, improv in the moment is my strength, but writing is less my forte. So having the framework allows me to be free to improvise in a way similar to an improv show. Sometimes I have to play a situation or a character that I personally would not have thought of. Oh hey, mom that's obsessed with anything and everything that has to do with frozen dinners. Well, son, I've got some animal pelts to put away and some big elegant birds that I need you to take care of. So would you like to stow furs or handle the swans, son? And modules let me scratch that itch, so I can see how well I can handle things that are thrown at me. Additionally, when I have a city to describe, NPCs that live and breathe in that city, and events that transpire while the players are off dungeon delving and exploring. It gives me things that already exist so that I can improvise around them. I only have so much energy, especially in a longer session. Not having to create a castle from the ground up gives me more creative juice to be able to play the terrified guard, the condescending monarch, or even the lich that's disguised as an innocent maiden. I only have so much bandwidth, so having some things taken care of gives me more room to improvise. So that's why I enjoy running modules. If you're a new DM, or a DM that might be feeling a little burnt out and wants some inspiration, then give it a shot. My favorites are Rise of the Runelords for a more traditional D&D experience, and Curse of the Crimson Throne for a more city-sprawling kind of adventure. Now, as far as those are concerned, they're originally Pathfinder modules, and so if you're playing from a 5e standpoint, you might need to look for an adaptation so that the numbers are going to be more in line with what you'll be working with. Now, if you want any more material on modules, please let me know. As always, like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps me out. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.